Lilies and Lilacs, Episode 2, Gatekeeper. Wanted. Adventurers to clear out a horde of swamp gremlins. 50 gold. Help. A mountain lion is eating my cows. 10 gold. Wanted. Security for a family reunion. 5 gold. Wanted. Shepherd for a day. Willing to pay 1 gold for a fair day's work. Tessica stood in front of her quest board, and she studied each of the notices nailed to it. A bead of sourness frizzled on the bottom of her stomach. They had just opened that morning, and the common room was still empty of patrons. Typically, people started trickling in during the afternoon, and most of the out-of-towners would arrive in the late afternoon. The notice boards were set up by the local adventuring guilds, and stacks of quests would be provided to the various taverns at the beginning of each week. Mordon was busy cleaning the bar, while Von Rad was no doubt cleaning the guest rooms. Tessica hadn't seen Zeddy yet, but it was still early. However, as soon as the bouncer popped into her mind, Zeddy placed a hand on Tessica's shoulder.
Are you finally giving up the normie life and taking the leap?
If I did, who would keep you all in line? Or this place afloat? No. But let me ask you something. You used to be an adventurer. What do you think of these quests?
Zeddy turned her eye toward the board.
I mean, the swamp gremlin quest is okay. But if there's a horde of them, then 50 gold is too low. Especially considering a party of 4, and the danger that comes with fighting swamp gremlins. It's also vague on what the quest giver categorizes as a horde. Those other quests are pretty lame.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Normally, I don't really look at them, as I'm usually so busy with everything else. But yesterday, 3 groups of out-of-towners looked at the board, and then walked away without taking any notices with them.
That usually doesn't happen, does it? I think I would have noticed it or heard grumbles.
I'm pretty sure I've not noticed it either. Maybe it's just a really uneventful week? I mean, Autumn Bliss isn't exactly teeming with exciting activity.
I guess that's true. Has it always been so serene? Don't get me wrong, I love it here. It's why I settled here.
Well, actually, Autumn Bliss used to be a very happening spot. Back in my day, we were the wild frontier city, as it were.
Von Rad walked out from the lobby of the inn and sat at one of the tables. A wide grin spread across the old man's face.
Really? As long as I've lived, there has never really been anything too wild and frontier-like.
Well, don't forget I'm over twice your age. Oh, you young folk don't remember the scourge we had to endure, because those menaces were long dealt with when you were children, but when I was your age, there wasn't an ocean crest.
Really? I didn't know that ocean crest was that new.
It's only been around for 30 years or so. When I was 8, there was a strange cult of mages who supposedly had a temple in the woodlands to the south. A ton of adventurers went off to stop that cult. Well, when I was 14, there was no safe passage through the mountains to the east or through the woodlands, and our mayor offered a reward for anyone brave enough to make established routes.
Huh. So, once there were safe passages, was that what eventually led to the creation of new cities like Ocean Crest?
Probably. By land, we are the most direct route to the remote city. However, I wanted to tell you about my 20s. In my 20s, a series of portals from other worlds opened up in the swamps. Oh, a whole mess of monsters started flowing into our lands, where they never existed before. As a result, adventurers flocked here by droves, to not only make regular coin, but also fight monsters they had never fought before. It was an exciting time, to be sure.
I didn't know about any of that. Dad never mentioned it.
No, but I know for certain your grandmother did.
Yeah, she always had stories. But I thought they were made up. Have you seen the quests on our board? They're totally lame.
Well, that's quite strange. The Adventurers Guild gets quest notices from all over the region. Usually there's a couple worthwhile ones amidst the tedious endeavors.
The door leading to the street opened up, and a pair of men strolled in. One of the men was a rock gnome, a squatty fellow standing about 4 feet in height, with broad shoulders, a barrel chest, and a pair of bushy eyebrows. Jeremiah wore a dark brown sleeveless shirt, a pair of tan slacks, and a pair of leather boots. Jeremiah had thick brown hair that was bound into a ponytail, which ran down his back. The rock gnome had bright yellow irises and a shaved face. The other person was a human male, and quite handsome for someone in their late 40s. Garen also had brown hair, but his was styled short, and his eyebrows were trimmed. He had soft blue eyes, and an adorable 5 o'clock shadow. Garen wore a short-sleeved pink shirt, a pair of dark slacks, and some dark leather boots.
Morning! Any chances we can get some brunch?
Of course. You two are always welcome to spend your money here. What are you all hungry for?
You got any more of that delicious stew you had yesterday?
Aw, sorry, I don't. I am making some pan-seared pork cutlets. Would you like some of that?
That sounds lovely. Can we have 2 pots too?
Certainly. Mordon, can you please start off these fine gentlemen while I get them some brunch?
Yes, ma'am.
Tessica moved back to the kitchen and began whipping up the meals. It didn't take too long, and within 20 minutes, Tessica had returned with 2 plates.
Why, thank you. We don't really serve food at the Pork's Pint, and Gowan and I need to go to the market after this before we open. My mother always said not to go shopping on an empty stomach.
How is business going? Your crowd is much more rowdier than what we get.
Oh, it is, but that's part of our appeal. The Badger's Den caters to the hunters, the Spell-Stitched Spirit serves magic frou-frou types, and we cater to the roughnecks who like to fight.
And you serve to the softer adventurers, but mostly the rest of us who need a break from the out-of-towners.
I suppose that's true. Hey, you have a quest board in the Pork's Pint, right?
Yeah, we have one. Why?
What sort of quests do you have posted? Were they actually good quests or lame ones?
Lame ones? We have the usual sort of requests. Monster hunts, escort missions, venturing into the woodlands, that sort of thing.
What about requests for people to be, shepherds or, like, dealing with swamp goblins?
For a moment, both Garen and Jeremiah glanced at one another, their faces scrunched up.
Shepherds? I don't remember seeing any lame quests like that.
Seriously? All the quests on my board are just awful.
They are? Let me take a look at them.
Garen moved over to the board and began reviewing it. Jeremiah watched from his seat, but the unsettled expression was still present on his rock gnomish face.
Is someone playing a practical joke on you? Because all of these are awful.
Oh, why would anyone be trying to mess with me? Wonder if it's that dreadful Wallister Cronton.
Wallister is an annoying ass, but unless he snuck in here without you knowing and switched the notices without you catching him, then I don't think it was him. Even with him being magical, it still seems beneath him to affect your quests.
I think I'd have to agree. He wants to boast and beat you through business and clients, but his ego wouldn't let him cheat.
Maybe there was some sort of mistake then.
Garen walked back over and sat back at the table.
Yeah, probably an honest mistake in sorting at the guild post. You might want to stop by and see about getting better quests.
Yeah, I can do that when I go pick up my next stack. Can I get anything else for you?
We should be good. As always, the food smells great. Even though we're technically competitors, we really do love coming here. L&L is a nice reprieve from the sort of crazy revelry that goes on at the Pork's Pint. Here, we can breathe. So thank you.
Aw, thank you both. It's always been that way with Lilies and Lilacs, providing sanctuary to both locals and out-of-towners alike.
Well, we locals appreciate you immensely. It might not be said to you often, but we do.
Tessica moved behind the bar while Mordon went off with Vonrad to help with some of the rooms. It was a little bit cooler today, but not quite uncomfortable, just noticeable. The door opened up and another local strolled in. Celerin Escata, half-fey cleric of the mysterious goddess, Thafalgus, stood in the entryway. She was taller than Tessica was, but was quite stunning by all accounts. Due to her obvious fey heritage, Celerin had an otherworldly radiance about her. Her eyes were a lighter shade of purple, and her hair was naturally red-orange. It fell around her shoulders. The tips of her pointed ears poked out through the red curls. Celerin wore the colors of her temple, a robe of varying shades of light blue and light purple. A silver holy symbol of her goddess, the Thafalgus, a goddess of cosmic secrets, hung around her neck. The symbol was a twisting mass of tentacles, some of which stretched out, giving it an almost sun-like shape. Celerin walked up to the bar and smiled to Tessica.
Good afternoon, Tessica. I hope that your day has been delightful so far.
Oh, it's been all right. How's your day?
Oh, every day I can serve the Mistress of Secrets is a lovely day. I revel in hearing the divine whispers in my ear.
Yeah. So, would you like a drink or some food?
Oh, no food for me. I just finished lunch. I would love some Dust Friar whiskey, though.
Celerin, you're something else. You're always so poised and demure, but you always ask for the hardest liquor. I still can't believe you outdrank that swordsman last week. I don't know anyone else who can stomach as much dust fire as you.
When I was a teenager, I used to have foul-mouthed pixies as neighbors. They constantly challenged my older brothers to drinking contests. When they passed out, I snuck in and drank my fill. At first, I wanted to see what the big deal was, but by the time I was 19, I was beating them all in those contests.
I'm too much of a lightweight to try and wrestle the dust fire on the regular. I stick with ogre wines personally.
Tessica reached behind the counter and grabbed a bottle of Dust Fire whiskey. As most patrons didn't drink the pixie-made alcohol, this was an unopened bottle. Tessica poured a small glass and then slid it over to the cleric. Celerin lifted the glass to her lips, tilted her head back, and then swallowed loudly. She gently placed the glass back down on the bar, then placed 3 golden coins beside it.
Give me 2 more, please. Whiskey heightens the fire that Thalpagus has placed in me.
Sure. 2 more coming up.
It was a beautiful mid-morning today, and at the moment only locals were out and about. Out-of-towners tended to be late risers, with all the drinking most tended to do upon reaching civilized towns like Autumn Bliss. Tessica walked down the avenue, headed toward the Adventurers Guild post, located at the southern section of the city. The Adventurer Guild post was a 2-story structure with a set of double doors and a large balcony on the 2nd floor. Typically, adventurers took notices to the guild post to either get more details or to turn in the quests. A few adventurers, probably all in the same party, stood near the entrance of the post. Tessica studied them as she approached. They had bright eyes, excitable expressions, and they kept gesturing to the office with heightened anticipation. Their weapons, armor, and clothing still looked newer. When Jeremiah walked out of the office with a stack of papers, the adventurers turned to him swiftly. Their urgency was palpable.
Get back, you queen-starving pups! If you want a quest, you have to come into my tavern, like everyone else.
The group of adventurers seemed to wilt a little, and they began to whisper among themselves. Jeremiah walked up to Tessica and gestured over his shoulder.
Can you believe them? They honestly thought they could try and snag a quest before we posted it. You have to be tough with them, even if you're not an ex-out-of-towner like me.
Thanks. You know me. I've never been scared to punch adventurers who don't know the meaning of boundaries.
You remind me so much of your grandma. Word of advice before you leave. Take a look-see over your quests to make sure there isn't any funny business.
Yes, I was planning on it. Are you and Garon coming over for lunch today?
I'm afraid not. Gawain is planning a picnic with some of that high-end ogre wine you mentioned. But we'll be darkening your doorstep soon enough.
Oh, that sounds so romantic. Have fun.
Tessica moved up to the entrance, but then halted as her least favorite half-fae exited the guild post. He carried a stack of papers. One of the adventurers tried to talk to him, but Wallister flicked a hand at her.
Oh, don't even think about talking to me. These quests are for mages and high-quality spellcasters only.
But I am a mage.
Wallister's face contorted in a disgusted fashion.
No, you are not. You are simply a bumbler who waggles her fingers and hopes for the best. If you want quests for someone of your level, go to Lilies and Lilacs. Oh, look, there's the owner now. Hello there, Tessica.
Tessica stomped up toward the mage tavern owner.
You pompous ass! How dare you insinuate we serve unworthy adventurers? Lilies and Lilacs is the oldest tavern in Autumn Bliss still in operation.
Yes, it's so old that it's outdated. It might have been something special once upon a time, but the Spell Stitch Spirits is the best tavern in town now.
Ooh, you're such a prick. Get out of my way before I punch you in the face.
Tessica stormed past the half-fae and rammed her shoulder into his. He stumbled back, but he laughed heartily.
I hope you get some good quests.
Tessica stepped into the place and then turned back to the half-fae. But Wallister was already happily strolling off. White-hot rage flickered in her chest, and then she noticed the 4 out-of-towners gaping at her.
What? Something you want to say?
The adventurers averted their eyes and even moved away from the front of the guild. Tessica rolled her eyes, and then she took in a deep breath. She sighed and went inside. The main lobby of the guild post was quite welcoming, with warm reds, browns, and oranges. There was a large stone fireplace, some large rugs, and a couple of couches along the wall. There was a counter toward the far end of the guild post, with a door leading to the back. A little old man was standing behind the counter, and he smiled at Tessica when she came in. The man's name was Ference O'Neill, and he had been working at the post since before Tessica's grandmother opened Lilies and Lilacs. Whenever Tessica came in to get her notices, he was always a warm fellow. Ference was a wrinkly old man with wisps of white hair and silver irises. He had a pair of pointed ears, as he was a half-fae. Today he wore a long-sleeved white shirt, a black vest, a pair of black slacks, and a faded green tie.
Oh, well, looky here. It's Miss Tessica. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. Just here for my weekly stack of quests.
Yes, I have your stack right here.
The little old man opened a drawer from behind the counter and pulled out a stack of papers. He gestured them to Tessica.
Here you go.
Tessica took the quest notices, but she stared at them with a pronounced frown and a weighted expression.
Is something wrong, my dear?
Would you mind if I looked them over before I left?
Look them over?
Yeah. You see, last week, the quests we received were sort of strange, so I wanted to just take a look-see. You wouldn't mind, would you?
I don't suppose I do.
Great. Thank you.
Tessica went over to one of the couches, sat down, and began looking through the quests. Seeking a part-time goat herder, 1 gold a week. Clean out my gutters, 50 silver. Deliver packages to my grandson in Ocean Crest, 15 gold. Obtain a dragon tooth, 20 gold for pristine condition only. Kill a rabbit infestation on my farm, 2 months' worth of carrots. Paint my barn, 1 gold with an ale. Tessica's jaw tightened, and she put the notices back in the stack.
Is there a problem?
Tessica looked up to the speaker, as it was from a much younger person than Mr. Ference. The gentleman who now lorded over her was tall, with short brown hair, several strands of gray weaved through his locks. His hard green eyes sent shivers down Tessica's spine. The man wore a plum-colored jacket, a gray shirt, and a matching set of pants. As soon as Tessica saw him, a mental spark jolted her.
I recognize you. What are you doing here?
I am here because I am the new guild postmaster. Now answer my question. Is there a problem? You asked to review your quests. Why?
Tessica's stomach swirled for a moment, but then her boldness consumed any weak tension. She stood up and gestured to the stack in her hand.
I asked to review these quests because the last batch I got were full of lame ones. These are even worse than last week's. Who the hell is sorting these?
I am. I sort all the quests and give them out to those I feel are deserving of them. And your quests match the quality of your clientele. You don't get as many adventurers as other places, so you don't need higher tier quests.
That's bullshit. We get the same sort of out-of-towners as everyone else. It's not fair that we should be given these. Goat herding and rabbit hunting are not adventure quests. And asking for only 20 gold for a dragon's tooth is way too low.
What would you know about good quests? Your judgment is obviously flawed. You can't tell a good quest from a bad one. Or a good man, for that matter.
A good man? Are you punishing me? 'Cause I'm not interested in you? Are you freaking serious?
Why, no. No one is punishing anyone. I'm simply using my authority to make the best decision as to who to grant quests to. Just as you made your poor decision.
That's not fair.
Oh, well, boo-hoo. The world isn't fair, is it?
I'm not going to let this stand.
You'll do what? Tell someone? It will be your word against mine. I'm a trusted representative of the prestigious adventuring guild. You're a pretty little bar owner. And before you seek to ask Ference for help, he won't dare try and cause any controversy when he's so close to retiring with a full pension.
Tessica glanced over to Ference, who averted his eyes.
You're a steaming pile of runny dragon shit. How dare you threaten a sweet old man like Mr. Ference? Ugh!
Your discontent is as ineffective as your insults. As long as I'm here, which will be for a long time, you can expect quests like this. Unless you'd like me to put a permanent ban on Lilies and Lilacs.
Tessica glared at the man a moment longer before she stormed away and left the office.
And then that bastard said to me,
"You can't tell a good quest from a bad one. Or a good man, for that matter."
Tessica sat around a table with Fanica and Zeddy. It was fairly early in the evening, and there was a nice crowd of locals, and even a few out-of-towners. At the moment, the quest board was empty.
That's bullshit! Who does that asshole think he is?
He sounds like a pompous little prick. Why is he doing this to you?
remember that asshole you had to throw out 3 weeks ago? The guy who was so drunk he wouldn't stop pestering me for a kiss and... more?
Yeah. Oh, it was that guy?
I bet you, after I turned him down. He kept giving us super lame quests. It isn't fair.
Is there anything you can do? Oh, what about the mayor? Is there anything he can do?
The mayor can't help, but there is something you can do.
A cloaked figure came up to their table, but the cloak had a dozen patches on it, and its color was faded. An old man face poked out of the hood. Ference kept glancing about clandestinely.
What are you doing here?
The old man frowned and then sat down across from Tessica. He reached into his cloak and then pulled out an envelope. He slid it toward Tessica.
I'm so sorry about Mr. Sason. He is a rather dreadful man. However, he does have a lot of clout with the upper administration in the guild. So even if you spoke to the mayor or even Mr. Sason's supervisor, little or nothing would be done. Mr. Sason would probably retaliate too. There is something you can do, though.
There is? Oh, what is it? Does it have to do with this?
Tessica pulled the envelope open, and there was a folded piece of paper, along with 10 golden coins.
The piece of paper indicates the name and city where a former internal investigation officer lives. It has been several years since we had any need for an internal investigation, and most people outside of the guild don't even know that department exists. If you write my old friend a letter, he may be able to do something. I strongly believe it is your only chance.
Tessica opened the piece of paper and saw a name and a city that was perhaps a week's journey away.
And what is the 10 golden coins for?
It is to cover the cost of a courier. I should have said something, but I'm just old and not able to do anything else. I'm so close to retiring, and
You don't have to explain. I totally understand. Thank you for taking the risk and helping me.
Please, don't tell anyone what I did.
I promise your secret is safe with me.
The old man looked around once more and then slinked out of the tavern. Tessica, Zeddy, and Fanica watched him go.
What a sweet man.
Agreed. He's right about the political nature of the guild. Sometimes in some places I visited, it felt like an old boys' club. If he says reaching out to this person will help, then perhaps it will.
How about I go whip us up some dinner, and then we write a letter?
Suddenly, Bonta burst into the tavern, and everyone stopped to look at her. The half-ogre's eyes were wide, filled with a mixture of fear and excitement. Mordon was behind the bar, but when Bonta entered, he rounded the bar and approached her.
Bonta, what's wrong? You look rattled.
A dragon! There's a dragon in the area!